Okay, I think that's it. So we've had a little draw for the order of speaking, and the first speaker for 6 minutes will be Nick Lacornu.
Good evening, I'm Nick Lacornu. For 20 years I've been campaigning for social justice and human rights in Jersey, and in the March by-election you did me the honour to elect me as your deputy for the remainder of the 6 months that remained. I made it clear that my purpose was to defend the social and economic interests of working people in the States, and I've done so through forceful speeches in the actual assembly and by close questioning of ministers. I'd particularly like to welcome the presence in these elections of Polish and Portuguese candidates. I think that gives self-respect to those communities. We've got Bia Porre in St. Brelard, a woman of colour, Portuguese, and Konrad Kruzinski, a Polish candidate standing for senator. On the aspect of candidates, at election time I'm always surprised by the audacity of the establishment candidates who just parachute into the district. People who have no previous involvement with either local politics or the community they suddenly claim they wish to represent. I'm the only candidate who lives in the district that has to put up with the La Colette smell and the smut. I live at Hard Park. Most of the other candidates do not even live in the parish, and one does not even live in the island, though he's promised to move back if elected. I think my politics are more relevant than ever because we've got a £95 million budget deficit looming. And I can predict now what the establishment, that's the political right, will do after the election. I'm not going to tell you now, but there's going to be cuts in public services. There's going to be cuts in public sector jobs. There's going to be pressure on public sector wages. There's going to be increases in GST. There's going to be user pay charges, new ones, and waiting lists for everything are going to go up. Working people and pensioners are going to pay the price of a crisis that is not of their making. I'm a lawyer by profession, and those skills come free with the job. I won't be charging you £300 per hour to represent you in the Social Security Tribunal or to fill in some social security forms or do whatever is necessary. I will be able to give you advice as to where you can find information. It's often said, we lefties are anti-business, but I don't think we are really. We actually support small businesses, and I'm going to promote one particular aspect of my manifesto. That's about the Landlord and Tenant Act 1954. It's a UK legislation. It gives security of tenure to small businesses so that when their rents are renewed, they don't have to face a huge increase, which is demanded by Jersey commercial landlords, plus the bung. They will have a rate, a new rent, established by surveyors at a going rate for the area. I think that's very important. In the referendum, which is coming on constables, I shall be voting no, because I understand that no fair system for St Helier or the other urban areas can be created so long as constables are retained. It's a class issue, but I hope that we will come and deal with that in specific questions, that someone will ask this question about what is the meaning of the referendum. So I will rest my case there. I'd ask you all to come out and vote on next Wednesday, to bring your friends out, to offer them a cup of tea if necessary to get them out, because our district suffers from 60 to 70% voter abstention. Your presence is greatly welcomed, and those of your friends to come and vote and maintain our democracy, because that is absolutely vital. Without your presence and participation, we don't have a proper functioning democracy. So thank you very much, and please consider voting for Nick Lacornu. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. You finished well in time. I'll ask Russell Levy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the whole La Collette reclamation area has been laid out as though Jersey had space to waste, when we know exactly the opposite is true. We've got metal sheds, cars on an asphalt sea dotted with sodium lights, when we could have the most southerly community in the British Isles. I'd like to see the whole area reconfigured, get some houses down there, because if we can use that space effectively, we can avoid the whole high-rise versus urban sprawl dilemma currently confronting St Helier. Now, of course, we have a fuel farm on that site, and since the Buncefield explosion in 2005, La Collette has been designated a low-density area. It's insanity to have spent all those millions of pounds on land reclamation, which was supposed to ease the island's housing crisis, and not to be able to put houses down there. Now, no one, literally no one in our government wants to address this. They do not want to talk about it because of the cost of moving the fuel farm, but move that fuel farm they have got to do, and we should start that debate. I'll tell you what the government are talking about, because I went to the senatorial hustings I went to the other night. I took down a couple of quotes from serving ministers who want to continue as serving ministers. I won't mention their names because it is unfair to take this out of context, but nevertheless, we had from one of them, I want to cut red tape. How many elections are we going to hear that pledge and promise? At least 2 or 3 ago, I remember that going past. Another one, we need to educate our young people and equip them with the skills they need to get jobs. I mean, tell us something we don't know. The question is, what have you been doing about that for the last 3 years, and what are your policies to sort that out for the next 3.5 years? Well, I'll give you an education policy. We must end this ridiculous system of schools self-assessing. We need to bring back the external assessors, Ofsted, which they fired, the department fired, because they found what they reported a little bit embarrassing. I know that teachers find this system ridiculous because I've spoken to them. And that's what they say. They're having to write stuff about their colleagues who they have to work with for the next couple of years. It doesn't make sense. The headmasters have professional partners. The teachers don't see these guys, very highly paid, by the way. They go to the headmaster's office, hold their hand for a while. Of course, they're not going to criticise the education department because they're in the employ of the education department. It doesn't make sense. And the department needs strong political leadership. And it hasn't had that for years and years. And they need to listen to the people on the coalface in the classroom. They need to listen to the teachers. I was saying this to a lady on the doorstep going out canvassing yesterday afternoon, and she suddenly went all quiet and looked side to side and said, "Oh, well, you should see health. I'm a nurse and we're not supposed to talk about this, we're not allowed, but we've got more managers than doctors and they're trying to turn it into the NHS." Her words. I don't know if that's true. But if they are trying to turn it into anything, there are better models than the NHS. So they need to listen. That management need to listen to the nurses and doctors. Health is going through an enormous change, and I applaud the move to primary health care, treating people in their own homes instead of in hospital where possible. They're going through massive changes, but this huge lump of very well-paid managers and civil servants are not taking the staff with them. 45% of our population are finding it hard, are struggling to pay their monthly bills. 45%. And at the same time that that was announced, what do our government announce? A green paper, admittedly a discussion document, but nevertheless new ways to tax you with property tax. Well, if they listen to that 45%, I know what that 45% will say, they'll tell them where to stick those new taxes. I think all St Helier deputies should be working together. Never mind the constable's block vote, the St Helier deputies could form a block vote, use that as leverage on things like getting that bus that would go around town and pick the senior citizens up from South Hill and go down Pier Road, etc. Use that leverage to talk to the police and find a new initiative to at last tackle the noise that some residents are having to put up with from 11 p.m. at night till 4 a.m. in the morning, plus all the power tools with all the construction, apparently 7 days a week. I think whoever the deputies are, of whatever colour or political persuasion, They should all work together. I believe this government needs a near total clear-out. I believe that we have to make our voice heard and make some noise for St Helier number 1. And that's why I'm standing. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. 50 seconds saved.
Oh, not bad.
Good. Shannon Kerrigan.
My name is Shannon Kerrigan and I'm running for Deputy in St Helier 1 District. I was educated at Hope Valley School and went on to study, again, a BTEC Level 3 in Media Studies at Highlands College. For the whole of the 3 years of full-time study, I was self-funded, working a variety of jobs to make ends meet since I was refused any grant. I'm not complaining, but I'm certainly no stranger to hard work. As a 21-year-old female from a working-class background, born and raised on the island, I'm standing for the position of Deputy in St Helier number 1 because I believe that the State of Jersey is out of touch with its electors and needs to be modernised. There are, for example, only 10 women out of 51 representatives currently in the States. One example of this old-fashioned attitude was the recent debate on civil marriage, which was derailed and delayed by the Home Affairs Minister. Most young people couldn't see what the fuss was about. This is a simple equal rights issue, and yet Jersey has taken over 20 years to outlaw racial and other types of discrimination. Another issue that divided people was the issue of statutory paid maternity leave. A proposal for 26 weeks paid through the state's maternity allowance was thrown out and will not be debated for a further 2 years. On this issue, we are 40 years behind in the times in comparison to other Western countries. As a member of Reform Jersey, I will work with my colleagues to introduce this as soon as possible. During my time at college, I examined many aspects of life in Jersey, from domestic violence to the training of the Army Reservists. The reason I have decided to stand in this year's election is because I have experienced firsthand the way the states of Jersey have neglected to treat their own with the fairness and respect that everyone deserves. This included making a documentary on the lack of basic rights in the LGBT community on the island. If elected, I will be working as part of Reform Jersey team with all the advantages, including over 20 years of experience that brings. By working together as a party, we can achieve more to make Jersey a fair society with government policies based on social and economic justice. I stand for the rights of all human beings and will fight for equality in all areas, including access to education and employment protection. On education, we have heard much about the need for schools to provide vocational training to supply the need of the job market. This works well for some students, especially those who are more practically minded, and we need to provide better facilities for this training. But most need a good academic education that will prepare them to be able to adapt to changing markets. What we do need is even better careers teaching that focuses on the opportunities available locally and the educational routes that students can take to get there. We must ensure that all, even those who take up apprenticeships when leaving school, have access to higher education when they need it. This could be achieved through business sponsorship, which would encourage students to return when they have graduated, but we still need an effective grant system that is based on a realistic parental means test. The level at which the parental contribution has been set have not kept pace with inflation. On employment, the minimum wage is set at a level which produces in-work poverty and can barely cover many people's rent. Zero-hour contracts need to be carefully regulated in order to prevent abuse. Thinking wider about jobs, these are linked to figures for population and the targets we set for inward migration. We are all concerned with growing population. We need to balance the needs of businesses with our desire to preserve the character of Jersey. It's countryside and green spaces, without packing people into overcrowded high-rises in St Helier. We have an interim population policy allowing for a net inward immigration of 325 people a year, though targets have not been met. So where will these people go? You'll hear that growth is one of the mechanisms that will pull us out of our current financial difficulties and provide for an ageing population. But this is a short-term solution. With a housing shortage, how will our young people ever get a foot on the housing ladder? We could well be walking into a social and economic disaster. We must have the political will to use the tool we have, the control of housing and work law, to control the population within sustainable limits. This law is simply not being policed. Ministers will tell you that the numbers are under control. This is not true. Some companies have disregarded the law and use licenses designed for entry-level posts that could easily be filled by locals. Applying this law as it was intended should be a priority. But businesses must play their part, employing people on fixed-term contracts whilst training their successors and offering entry-level posts to school leavers. If we are to build a sustainable future for our island, then we must ensure that we maintain the standards of our public services for the benefit of all. If we need to increase taxes in order to protect our public services, then we should introduce higher rate of tax for the wealthy and not raise GST any further. If you vote for me, you'll be voting for change. This will be achieved by working as part of a team. So please vote for Shannon Kerrigan.
Thank you, Shannon. Again, well in time. I'll ask Judy Martin.
Thank you, and good evening to everybody, and good evening to fellow candidates and the chair, who is performing one of his last probably political duties tonight, so I thank him very much. Yes, my name is Judy Martin, and I've been one of your deputies for the last 14 years. Previous to that, I helped Paul Leclerc get elected in the district and Ted Viber after him. It was due to Ted being unable to fulfil his full term. I was elected in a by-election in 2000, so this is 14 years and my 6th election. I've always worked hard in the parish. I work with the constable, and unfortunately, not all the deputies do work or vote in the same way. They are from different political persuasions. I found that only too well on the police station debate. I couldn't even take the constable with me. And I couldn't get many of the other constables to support me either. But in the parish, I have worked hard on Anne Court. They wanted a 900-space car park standing in King Street for over 3 months on the Saturdays with some of my very good friends here, collecting thousands of signatures on a petition. We got that stopped. Again, we're now fighting Gas Place. There's a petition going around the hall tonight. Please, if you can fill it in. We want St Helier to have a bigger green lung, not just the park. We want to extend it. So also in the States, I've heard much mentioned about health. I've been Assistant Minister at Health for the last 3 years. It is a slow-moving machine to turn it around. We are asking the people on the coalface, how can you do this better? And they are telling us, and we are listening. And we are cutting out red tape, and we are getting efficiencies. We're not actually, some of these will lead to saving money, but not all of them. We hear again a lot about immigration, and the control to work law is not working. The control to housing and work law was never meant to control. It won't control. You cannot stop people with a common from the UK, Europe to come here if they haven't got a job. Paul Leclerc, to me, had it right all those years ago. We need to look at a proper work permit system. And then we can bring people in we absolutely need. We need to train. I've seen all these young people in front of me leave school, be out of work for up to 2 years and get depressed. Luckily, they're all working now and they're all contributing. So, but did they leave school with the right skills? No. We hear, as the Education Minister is going, education is failing. Why couldn't he tell us this 3 years ago or the one before? We're always told when we hear our results how well we did against the UK. I'm told it's because we measure against the whole of the UK and we don't measure properly. Why are we leaving? Why are children leaving school or youngsters leaving school with basic IT that they already knew when they went in there at 4 years old? It's really, really not good enough. We need more of this. There's a lot of people who don't want to be academic. They want to leave school at 14. They do it in the UK. Got a young man here in the UK left at 14. Vocational training by the age of 18, full-time mechanic. It can be done. So why should you re-elect me? Because as I said at the last Hustings, I can't change everything, and I won't change. I will fight. Being a St Helier deputy, being St Helier deputy number 1 is always a fight. I'm fighting people in the States. You do have a block vote with the constables, and I have said no, because you've got the country constables with their country deputy who don't want anything in their parish. It's always squeeze it in, cram it in and build them high, and don't care about the quality of life in St Helier. It's not good enough. I really feel that we need to do more. We do need this petition signed. The game is not over. I want that park extended, and this is one, the whole of St Helier deputies are with me on this one, and so is the constable. We really want to get as many people to sign this petition. So, what can I really say any more than that? I don't really need to do. I've done nearly 5 minutes. As I say, if you re-elect me next week, and it's only a week to go, I hope everybody turns out. You will get more of the same. I've still got a lot of energy, and I hope anybody, there's a few in the hall tonight, that I have helped over the years. I've always given 100%. I've still got 100% to give, not 110, because even my maths doesn't do 110%. It's an X factor saying, but put your X in my box next week. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Well in time, again. We'll now move to Gino Rizzoli.
Good evening, everyone. I have lived in St Helier District 1 for some 30 years. I live in Queen Street. I'll have an office in town if I'm elected to see constituents with any problems. Really, I think you know that we cannot really carry on this way. We cannot carry on doing politics in this left-right divide. We need to install this compass in all of us that allows us to walk the same path. So I want you to listen very carefully to what I have to say, because there are 1 or 2 mischievous journalists out there who would paint me as a 3-time loser. So forget what people have to say, and listening requires no thought. Just absorb. Just absorb what I'm saying. Now, the government has already borrowed £250 million, and you're going to pay for it. Now, that means the raising of taxes. GST is about to double. Now, that will not only hurt the person on the street, it will hurt businesses. Now, this, what they call the land tax, is just what they're talking about is commercial and domestic rates. To give you an indication to where they are travelling to, the rates in England is 10 times more than it is here payable. So I'm here to deliver quite a simple truth, right? And I really want you to grasp this, because I know there's people on this bench that have done some really good work for you. Now, they have to, because the government system does not provide properly. Now, I want to change this completely. Now, although freedom of speech gives you an illusion, it gives you the idea that you have a democracy, it is in actual fact an illusion. You've been thinking the world is flat. I mean, that's the sort of scenario that you're at. Freedom of speech and banning the word democracy you know, it doesn't mean you have a democracy. The very first thing we do, if elected, within days, is swear allegiance, not to you, not to you, the Crown. Now, you might say the Crown is the Queen, what a lovely woman. Well, I think she's a lovely woman. But the Crown means the entire legal system, the entire civil service, the police force, we all swear allegiance that way, not your way. Now, what does that mean? It means that you have a hierarchical nature of government. Major decisions are made at the very top, behind closed doors, things like 0-10, behind closed doors, and they put pressure downwards to have the people at the coalface, us, right, and ministers, to deliver that policy. 19,500 signatures of yours against GST, where did it go? In the dustbin. It's because you don't have a democracy, but you don't deserve it unless you ask for it. Now, for years, you couldn't ask for a democracy, not possible. But we've had the internet for a good 10 to 15 years now. In 50 years, what's driven the expansion of economies and science is facts, not opinion. Now, we could deliver, and that's what I want to give to you, database technology, which is child's play, database technology, every payment that the government makes, every payment that it makes on a searchable database so that our whole island can see their spend. But their spend is not just a spend. You just won't get financial control. That would be a minimum, because the spend is what they're doing, not what they say they're doing. Now, I don't have a lack of disrespect. This is simply an observation. And if you think that the people at the top can change for you, you're mistaken. You don't understand how life works. They're more trapped in this system than you are. You wouldn't stick your head out and lose your job. Why do you expect them to?
30 seconds.
You must come together and open the first door of truth, financial truth, and then we can start working together. Imagine 50,000 people working together. Imagine what you can do. Left, right doesn't work because there's no cohesion, you split. The key is put me in government and I'll bring this government together, not through fear, but through the desire of wanting the best for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gino. Our last speaker, Scott Wickenden.
We have heard recently that since the start of 2013, the public sector has grown by around 280 staff. In the private sector, this would be good news. You only take on new staff if you are making profit. But unfortunately, we know the government is spending more than it is receiving in its taxes. When you take on an employee, you also need to provide the following overheads, or some of: an office, a desk, stationery, a computer, a phone, technical support, air conditioning, lighting, electricity, water, a vehicle, petrol, parking space, a manager, a pension, health. It goes on and on. All of these come at a cost, and in nearly all cases, that cost is more than the 20% we get back from that person's income support. We urgently need to look at the services the government are providing and make some tough decisions. Yes, the government should have a marketing and technology strategy, but should they be providing the staff? There are services that we expect the government to provide, such as health, education, social security, law and order, refuse collection and disposal. It's right that we employ the staff to provide these services, but if it's not an essential frontline service, we should be asking the free market to provide the service for us. By doing this, we'll not only be helping the economy, but we'll save millions of pounds that we could use to improve our hospitals, our schools. We can reduce costs of going to see the doctor. I have years of experience in providing services in the private sector. and promise to use my skills in service delivery to make the changes that we need to be the most efficient and safe way possible. These will not be easy decisions and they will not be popular, but they will be essential if we want to stay away from increasing taxes. We need to build some diversity in our economy, and soon. Though the finance industry has served us well, it is a fickle industry and we cannot guarantee that it will be with us forever. Jersey has little in exportable goods, so I believe that we need to look at the growing digital industry to find the diversity we desperately need. The government has been very successful in setting up functions such as Digital Jersey, Jersey Business, Locate Jersey and the Innovation Fund, but there is more that they need to be doing if we're going to help businesses become successful in the island. We need to look at schemes like SEIS, which they have in the UK, which stands for Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. This gives tax breaks to people investing in new business ideas. This way we can help fund innovation without having to pay directly for it, where the risk is on the investor and not on the taxpayer. We need to help small and medium businesses that are at the backbone of our economy. We need to review and remove unnecessary red tape, regulation and legislation to help enable this industry to grow and prosper. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of hearing young people returning from university say, "Who should I work for?" We need to help nurture and encourage the young entrepreneurs of Jersey, help to make their dreams come true and get them out of the mentality of having to work for somebody else. We need to encourage apprenticeship schemes so that we don't have to import skilled labour into our construction industry. I've worked in the fintech industry for over 15 years now, and in that time I've worked for two of the largest UK banks. I've managed an IT consultancy in central London, and I work for the largest IT company in Jersey, which has recently won 3 top awards in this year's Jersey Business Awards. I specialise in modern management, leadership and service delivery techniques. One of the key lessons I've learned in business is that you will never get anywhere if you use conflict to try and get something done. You need to work with your colleagues and collaborate for success. I promise that my politics will always be clean, and I will work with other senators, constables and deputies to achieve the changes that Jersey desperately needs. I will not use conflict politics, which has proven time and again just to hold up change. I've been trying to get my leaflet through everyone's door in St Helier 1. I'm not quite there yet. So if you've not received one of my leaflets and you've decided to stay at home in the warm and watch this on vote.je later, I hope I will get to you soon. If you want to check before my leaflet arrives, you can find out all the information on my views and opinions on my website, scottwickenden.com. I'd like to then say, please remember to sign the petition to stop the gas place development before you leave tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Again, well in time. We'll now move to questions, and as I said earlier, there'll be 2 minutes per candidate. So if you'd like to, if you're interested in asking a question, could you please give your name and obviously state the question? So who would like to kick off? Don't be shy. Oh, up here. Oops. This gentleman.
Hi, my name's... Hello? No. Hello? Hello? No? Oh, it's all right. I'll probably reject it anyway.
But for the video, for the recording. It's for the recording.
Right, sorry. My name's Neil Tostervin. My question is there's a lot of talk about we speak to people on the coalface, we speak to this, we speak to that, we speak to you. That's great at this point. You all do. It's fantastic. We see you everywhere. We get your leaflets. What happens in the next 3.5 years? I've been voting age for 20 years, lived in St Helier for a good 10 years. No one's ever asked my opinion. So what's going to happen over the next 3.5 years? Are you going to still talk to us, or will it have to wait till the next election till you come round and talk to us?
Thank you, Mr. Tustman. I'll ask Nick Corney to start.
Mr. Dawson, I wonder if you've ever actually approached your deputy, because they are available to you by email, by telephone, and they are accessible. I'm constantly accessible. I'm happy to talk on the telephone. It shouldn't be a totally passive action on your part. You've got to engage. We're trying to engage. We can't. There's 5,000 people in this district. We can't go and see them all. We do try. We knock on doors. I haven't come to yours as yet, and I will look up the electoral roll and I'll try and get to you if you're in our district. We do try our best, and we will carry forward and act on your behalf. But actually, the process of knocking on doors is very useful because it gives us the feedback, it gives us the information that makes our policies stronger. And that's one thing. When I deliver a speech in the States, I see the faces of the people whose doors on whom I have knocked. I'm saying the things that they would like to say, but don't necessarily have the skill or courage to communicate.
Neil, I only make one promise in this document, my manifesto, and online on my website. The only promise I make is face-to-face consultations with constituents, and then I'll do my best to help and to work for them. That is one commitment I do make. And it is easy. All my details are there, the wretched Facebook and Twitter pages, plus, you know, my email address and my home number, which is I'm 50 years old. I'm proud to say I'm now back living with my mum on this island. And you can get me there. In fact, she's been working as my secretary since I declared, and I've had an awful lot of calls from people who want to talk to me about stuff, and I'm working my way through them.
Thank you, Russell. Shannon?
I have my own sort of game plan, and if I do get elected, I don't plan on stopping knocking on doors. That's really it. Whilst knocking on doors during the election time, though, I'm trying to pick up areas where there are people who most need help and stuff like, you know, things along that line. But yeah, all I can say to you really is I don't plan on stopping knocking on doors. But again, my contact details are everywhere. So if there is anything someone desperately wants to find me about, then I'm not hard to find.
Thank you, Shannon. Judy?
Thank you, Mr. Tostivan. Well, people do contact me all the time. I work in an office from the States building. For the first 3 or 4 years, we didn't have any facilities. I walk out, I walk into town. Anybody who knows wherever I am, wherever I go, people will come and speak to me, and I'm very approachable. I do listen. I work with the Half the Par Residents Improvement Group, which used to be the Half the Par Group. And residents of St Helier did tell me, and they told me very loud and clear which way to vote on Plemont. And you can check my record, and I've said never a penny. And I said it again on the telly, and the phone was red hot from people who wanted me and said, we did tell you to spend the money to buy Plemont. And I said, where do you live? Not one of them who phoned me or contacted by email after me speaking said they lived in St Helier. Bad move, shouldn't be done. 3.5 million out of the Compensation Fund, the people that could have helped. So your question is, am I contactable? My record, I am contactable because people do contact me, and I'm working at the moment. I'm so many constituency problems with housing, social security. I'm still working on them. I haven't said, sorry, I'm too busy, I've got an election. I'm still working with people daily. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Gino?
Right, Neil, I have 2 coffee shops, one in Queen Street and one in Broad Street. My staff always know where I am. I'll have at least 1 day a week where you'll be able to talk to me at the office at Queen Street. Help, I am quite knowledgeable about most things, whether it's education, the judiciary, the health system, personal issues, business issues. At 63 years old, I've got a lot of knowledge, probably in the way that life works, fundamental primary systems, I can help a lot of people. I remember the other day I had a group of A-level students with a religious folder outside the shop, and I asked them what they were doing, and they were discussing issues of religion and so on. And I gave them a 15-20-minute lecture on exactly how they functioned with life. I gave them so much clarity, they walked away knowing who they were. It's so, I can't tell you the number of people that haven't got the up-to-date knowledge about how you function as individuals. Now, I can bring that to you and bring that to the State Chamber on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino. Scott?
Thank you for your question, Neil. I think throughout, when I listen to the State Chambers, they bring forward propositions that can be quite mundane, but they'll also bring some that will be important to people of District 1. At those times, I think we should be going out and looking at a section of the district and just randomise it, just to try and get the temperature of how people feel we should be voting for those propositions. So I think there are times where you don't want to hear about it, it will be boring and mundane, and there'll be times where we should be going out, and I think that should be done more.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, question number 2. Gentleman at the back.
I'd like to direct...
Can you give your name?
Is it working?
Yes?
David.
Yeah. I'd like to direct
Oh,
this...
your name?
David Eves. You know, anyway, Roy.
Well, I am failing in many respects.
Now, I'd like to direct this question at Russell Labby.
No, it's got to be a question that is capable of being answered by everyone, David. So can you rephrase it to cover everyone?
Well, I think it's out of order for somebody to come in from St Wands to stand in this parish.
So your question is it okay to stand in the parish if you don't live in the parish or the district?
I think it's totally unacceptable for somebody to come from St Wands and stand in this parish.
So that's
I'd like to know what the views of the other members are.
So, okay, what are the views of members on people who come from outside the parish or the district to stand in the district?
Well, from St Wands I'm talking about.
Well,
He couldn't come from further away. If he tried, if he was still in England, he couldn't come from further away.
Okay, Russell, you happen to be the first.
Thank you, Mr. Eves. I was born in St Helier number 1. I was raised and I was educated in St Helier number 1. I was raised in Grouville. I went away. I've been away. I've been, as you know, probably, I was in Plymouth, then London. I've worked all around the world in New York, Los Angeles, Singapore, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Cape Town, and I'm back and in St Wands at the family farm for the moment. But I'm standing in St Helier because I've always been nuts, passionate, very interested in the built environment, the urban environment, our town. The first programmes I made in the late 1980s for the BBC, the first time I got offered the chance to make my own programmes, it was about St Helier. Taking Andre Ferrari and Christopher Schofield around the streets of St Helier with a tape recorder, to looking at what was good, trying to get people to recognise what was still special about St Helier, what was still charming, what we should preserve, but also trying to get people excited about the opportunities that new building techniques, new architecture, the waterfront presented. You know, land reclamation doesn't have to be a flat plinth of inert waste surrounded by cement rubble. We can do better things with it. We can have a network of canals with locked gates keeping them full, lined with townhouses. That's the sort of thing that I want down at Loch Collet, because it would be regenerative to the whole of the district. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Russell. Shannon.
Just my personal opinion, I think it is quite important to at least be close to St Helier, but how can you not be in Jersey, really? Just as long as I think you have good knowledge of the parish and you're passionate about it and you want to do good for it, I don't think it really matters what parish you live in, no.
Thank you, Shannon. Judy?
Yeah, it's certainly not for me to say who's going to be good for St Helier or not, because I've never, well, until I lived at number 11 Rosehill Street when I very first come to the island, and I've lived in St Helier on and off, but never when I've been a deputy. But prior, in 1995, before being elected, when I was on the State Tenants Action Group and worked with Andre as well on the Tenants Action Group, I was given an officer from planning who was then the head of planning was John Young at the time, and I took him round what I called all the places that needed doing and looking at, and it was Detectable Court, Ann Court, La Colette, Low Rise. These places that I said needed to be done, and you know, work really needed to be done, and we're now getting Detectable High Rise done, not Low Rise, La Colette. But as I said, I helped Head Vibert to get into this district. He had come back from Australia. How far further do you want? He was a Jersey man, gone away for years, and he was a fantastic states member. All those years ago, I helped him, me and my husband, Paul Leclerc, and I still have the passion for St Helier. I've helped the people in Liberation Court. I wasn't a deputy then. They were going to sell Liberation Court off under their noses. When they went to sign their leases, it had Jersey Homes Trust on it. This got stopped, so I think I've always worked in, you know, for the people of St Helier. I live, you know, a step. If you, on the crossroads, you've got St Saviour on that side, St Helier in Half to Par. That side is St Saviour on that side of the road. It is so close, but as Shannon said, it's a tiny, tiny island. But if people really want to work for St Helier, you'll be the judge of it when you elect them, because they, you know, you can listen to them now and decide, do they really have St Helier and your district at heart? Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Gino.
Well, I suppose that is quite a reasonable question. But never forget, to resist what is, you know, really going against the drift of life. So if you think that is an issue, of course, you can lobby for it. But the most important thing to remember is what you focus on, life gives you back. So understanding how life works in its primary ways entirely changes your belief system, and then it changes your behaviour. So I look at everything that will bring us together and work together. I understand people, I understand how people think, and so I simply focus on what I want, not what I don't want. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino. Scott.
So I think my declaration is I live in St Martin's. But the reason I'm standing in St Helier 1 is I work in St Helier 1. I probably do most of my socialising in St Helier 1. Until recently, I did live in St Helier 1. And all of the stuff that I'm trying to get done with innovation, with small businesses, with the diversity in the economy, all kind of works around St Helier 1, which is basically the heart of Jersey. That's where our commerce is, it's where our ports are. The world's a smaller place today, and Jersey's definitely small with it, and it's shrunk. I know when there's a power cut in St Helier because I see it on social media. I think that if you are outside of parish, you can stand if you're passionate about the area, and I'm certainly passionate about St Helier.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Next question.
No.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies.
I've got my own microphone because I'm told there's an IT failure, but anyway, bear with me. It would be unthinkable, of course, for anyone who lived in St Helier to go and stand in St Wom. That just wouldn't be acceptable. They would not get elected. But it's quite acceptable for the political right to send down its candidates to the urban areas and get them elected. In the 1950s, it was very common. There'd be a complete slate of 3 to 4 business candidates, quite senior people, all names many of you would remember, who got elected. And why? Because there was a very low turnout. The working class didn't vote. And so is the case at the present. 60 to 70% don't vote. And I've called them the backdoor boys. And I have to say to Russell Labber, he was actually sent an email or Facebook message by Montfort Tadyer, Deputy Inspector, saying, Russell, if you stand in District Number 1, you're going to knock out a progressive. Do you really want to do that? And of course, he's happy to do it. Why is he not standing for senator? Why is he not standing as a deputy in St Wands? That's got to be the question you should be asking yourselves. But he comes here and expects to get elected, yet has no connection. The importance of the connection, actually living in the areas that I know about the La Collette smell. I know what it's like speeding motorbikes at 2 a.m, drunks at 2 a.m. It's really important. Actually, the real crucial thing is about the social and economic interests of the people who live here. Either side of Fort Regent, Pier Road and Green Street, we have got the mentally ill, the sick, the poor, the disabled, pensioners, the unemployed, the working poor. Those are the people that have to be represented. I know it's sandwiched in between the middle class and the upper middle class, but nevertheless, any deputy who is going to do a job, an efficient job, has to have an empathy for them. We've seen the case of Deputy Baker. Remember him? Former deputy here? Yes, you do. He got elected on his pedigree by virtue of who his father was. He has been completely useless. I'm afraid so. He hated the job right from the very beginning. That is the danger, and he topped the poll, so you all voted for him. Think upon that. Vote for people who actually are going to represent the social and economic interests of working people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. We'll now have another question. Gentleman at the back.
I come here this evening as...
Oh, sorry, can you give your name?
Oh, sorry, my name's Martin. Do apologise. Come here this evening, the same as everyone else here. We get given promises, etc., from all of you who sit before us, and yet the democratic system we believe is failing. As an individual, as one person out of 50, how can all of you promise us, the public, that you will do everything to help us?
Sorry, can you repeat the actual question?
As one person, how can we all believe that you will give us everything you have? As a one person, from one voice of 50.
Okay, thank you.
That the promises that you give will be adhered to.
Okay, how can, if the gentleman can correct me if I've got it wrong, but how can you as one person adhere to the promises you're making, given that, you know, you're a member of a 49-person House? We'll start with Shannon.
Well, this is the main reason I've decided to run with Reform Jersey. I truly believe that by working as a team together and using our votes to achieve what everyone's agreed on and what's best for the people, we can achieve more. I've actually written down a few quotes from some people here just tonight. I think Russell said that it's important to have block votes, which is just another example of where party politics might come in. Gino said, you know, we should bring us together, work as a team. So that's, I truly, that's the reason I'm running with Reform.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Judy.
Yes, I understand where you're coming from. Why am I not in a party? Because unfortunately, I will agree 9 times out of 10 with the likes of people like Shannon, Deputy South and Deputy Messick, and probably 1 or 2 times I won't agree. And I cannot be forced to feel that I have to go with that vote. What I can say is on my record, I have worked. The block vote in the States, I have to go back to, and it will fight the Reform Party, it will fight any party, is the block vote of the constables. You've just had 11 turn up at their parish halls and be re-elected. They have no fear of any public. They have no fear of any party. They know they can go home at night and nobody's going to pester them, and they're never going to probably stand another election as long as they're in the States. So I can do what I can do. I will probably support some of the things that probably not many of the things the constables want, but I will support common ground. And that's what it is. I think Scott said it earlier. You have to take people with you. Conflict politics doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Vino?
Right at the very beginning, I said to you, quieten the mind, because when you're thinking, you can't absorb what is said. So you have to feel, listen to what I have to say and feel if I'm telling you the truth. Now, I've already, you've only have to look at England to know that party politics doesn't necessarily work. In fact, it doesn't work. You see, there is a key to all this, and you just got to feel whether what I'm saying is true. The left pull a particular direction. Now, I'm a bit uneasy with the left, because the left tends to think things grow on trees, and businesses is like a bad word. You know, it's their fault. So I am giving you an opportunity. I'm saying to you, for the first time in human history, we can tow our government in and make them accountable. Put the truth on the table, and truth is embedded in life. It's part of the same thing. Trust the truth. Trust the truth, and you can move a mountain. You heard that one somewhere if you're a Christian, right? Trust the truth. I'm saying bring our government to account. You can see what they're doing by their spend, and then naturally things will evolve. Good people will step into the breach because they've got something to offer. So what I'm going to do in government, no one else has said this, because it will absolutely stand on its head the way we do things. Now, you've got to think about that one. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Juno. Scott?
Thank you for your question, Martin. I think this comes very close to it. I got an email from Constituent asking how I can deal in public debates and what experience I have to try and bring people in and change their minds about something in a public forum. And I had to answer, I haven't done a lot of public debate, but what I have done is I've stood in boardrooms with directors. I've tried to get them to spend money, change strategical directions. You need to vote for the person you think has the skills that can go in and speak to any of the other 48 people within the state's chambers, and you need to just vote for that person, because they're the ones that can go in, talk to somebody, bring them on this journey, as I said earlier, and collaborate to try and get what's done for the right for the island, for the right for the district.
Martin, thank you for your question. We can have some clarity at last. Jersey is a one-party state. It is dominated by the political right. The government that you have currently is also the government you're going to have after the 15th. It's already formed. The constables have been returned bar one, and that makes no difference who was elected because they both share the same sort of politics. We need party politics. Why? Because that gives the electorate the choice to remove one set of rascals and replace them with, another set of rascals, but never mind. But at least you've got choice. You can actually structure the assembly. You will have policy choice. There will be a manifesto of the Jersey Conservative Party. There will be a manifesto of the Jersey Progressive Party, or whatever it's going to be. And we need the establishment, the right, to actually come clean with the electorate. Ossoff, Gorst, Balash, and so on. You know all the names. They're all standing for senators. That is the leadership, the political leadership. They should form a proper political party and give real choice and have real policies that they can put to their own supporters. It will then become clearer to others, and I would suggest the working people of this island, that those are not necessarily the policies that they wish to pursue. It is therefore the historic mission of the left, of which I am a part, and progressives in this island, to create a political organisation, a movement, a party, perhaps, that is going to challenge, that will be sufficiently credible and strong, that it forces the establishment, finally, to come out and create their own Jersey Conservative Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Oh, Martin, I'm on record. If you, I found one the other day, a letter in the Evening Post that I'd written after the Clothier report came out. On record about my passion for having a separation of powers. I think it's absolutely vital, and I'm never going to change on that. And I'm on record with saying that I think this government needs a face change. It needs new people in it. So if elected and the Chief Minister candidates come back with the same faces, the same names, they aren't going to get my vote. I'm on record, again, with all those letters to the Evening Post and my job as a pundit sometimes on Radio Jersey about my issues with planning and about not listening to people. You say you've got, one chance to put one voice in the States. Well, I would say make sure that you are electing a strong voice, a persuasive voice. Nick says he's the voice of the working man and woman, but is anybody listening to him? Or has he alienated himself by ridiculous posturing? The question I pose. So make your voice, make your vote count, I would say. Okay.
Good, thank you very much, Russell. Okay, folks, we'll move to the next question. We can take the gentleman back and then we'll move upwards. Sorry, to the next two.
Hello, Mr. Goslar, Jerry Goslar.
Sorry?
Jerry Goslar.
Okay, yeah, Jerry.
I'd like to ask the candidates, if they're elected to represent the residents of St Helier, will they vote to extend the opening hours of licensed premises, which is currently under review and due for debate? Could I possibly make some extra add some information?
Very quickly, if it
yes,
helps the question. Yeah.
Yes, 3 weeks ago, well, 23rd of September, the Chief Minister lodged a 72-page report, Alcohol and Licensing Strategy for Jersey. It looks like a fait accompli that the licensing law is going to be changed because they've already redrafted it in this report. Two little points. They talk about extending the opening hours, including for non-alcoholic drinks and food service. One little point I'd like to make is I think what the States Assembly might try to do to sell, the executive might try to do to sell it to the States Assembly is perhaps stopping the selling of alcohol at a similar time as now, let's say 2 a.m. for nightclubs, but allowing them to continue opening, selling soft drinks and food till, say, who knows, 4, 5. And I'd like to point out, well, under the current laws, for a night, let's say for a pub, you can purchase alcohol till 11 o'clock, the bell goes, and then you get 20 minutes to drink up.
Okay.
Under this new system, what would stop, for example, people queuing up and getting 3 or 4 pints at, say, just before 2 a.m. in a nightclub, and then staying for the next 2 hours, drinking that, so getting more drunk over the next 2 hours when officially they're only having food and drink. And also it talks about the staggering of hours. How would that work?
I think we get the gist of what you're saying. Thanks a lot, thank you. So the question is, should we, what do the candidates think about the extension of licensing hours? And that, given what the gentleman said, it's really licensing hours to have the opportunity to drink more, not necessarily the 20-minute type thing that exists already at 11 o'clock. Okay, Judy?
Yes, thank you. And I was at the Roads Committee the other week when they were, because of the problems outside the takeaways and the nightclubs, they are trying to shut the road from Pier Road, just that small bit, so stop the people falling into the street. So I said they were looking at it the wrong way. Obviously, I think by the tone of your question, you don't think that if licensed premises stayed open later, so that taxis or even Liberation Station opened and night buses have happened all over the world for years to get people home. It's people want to get home. You don't want them outside your house. I need to look at this new strategy. I don't believe the law has changed yet. Is it better that they're in these clubs, waiting? And the licensing police now, there used to be one man going around, there's 6 in the team. They are very, very strict, and it's not down to the licensee to serve someone in any pub 3 or 4 pints of beer at 11 o'clock that they are still drinking past 20 past 11, and that won't be the case. It will be police. What they're trying to do is not make people drink longer, it's trying to keep people in. People leave St Helier. Don't forget, the whole of the world comes into St Helier on a Friday and Saturday night. There's no late night drinking anywhere else. It used to be, but no. And the rest of the world don't want us to even take responsibility. I've asked the constables, or the parish deputies, would you pay towards the taxi marshals? No. Nothing. So it's again St Helier's problem. This may be one way of solving it. I need to do some more research. I do feel for you if you're living next to one of these places. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Gino.
Well, I live at Snow Hill, Queen Street, and I'm often engaged in people's conversations 4 o'clock in the morning every weekend. So I understand where you're coming from. Extend the licensing hours? No. There are certain things that we could do. For instance, that premises that have music within their premises, they could have soundproof doors and keep them closed so the music doesn't spill out all over town. In al fresco areas, I wouldn't allow any standing at all. It is sit-down service. We need to chill with alcohol. We need to be able to drink more sensibly. And in the hot spots, such as Barefoot Street and down at the Weybridge, we need a much bigger police presence. And we need to be just a little bit less patient with people that are wildly drunk. If people are behaving badly, I think they should be picked up. They should have the inconvenience of being carted off to a cell or somewhere and, get themselves home by themselves 3 or 4 hours later. I think we must impress on the public that, people live in the town, we have to sleep and start, this is what I was saying earlier, we have to come together because then we start appreciating each other. You wouldn't be talking flat out 4 o'clock in the morning, keep it. I like to follow these people home, wait till they get home and then put a band outside the door, Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gino. Scott?
Thanks, Jerry. I haven't read the paper or what they're proposing on the new law. I have heard that it was going to be about soft drinks, and I don't think it's such a bad idea to try and get people to sober up a little. See, myself and Shannon are probably the only 2 candidates that are still young enough to go out into town at the weekend still.
No.
I think St Helier has most of the late night clubs, most restaurants, and have to put up with most of the antisocial behaviour. We need to make sure that we get people home quicker and off the streets, because that will reduce the amount of trouble that people get themselves into. I would like to see not night buses, but open up the Liberation Station for taxis late at night, so we can have more taxis in different places and different queues. It will mean more taxi marshals, but I think if we can get people home quicker, we'll see a lot less trouble later on.
Thanks, Scott.
After these hustings, I shall probably retire to a hostelry with my supporters. I might even buy them a drink. And I don't want to be seen as a Puritan killjoy, but I don't want to see the extension of the alcohol licensing hours, because I know what it's like to live in St Helier, and those who I've spoken to are of the same opinion, those who live here. St Helier has to host the noise, the rowdiness, the violence, and the whole of the island comes to these streets and engages in a form of complete alienation. It seems they can only have pleasure or fun by getting completely smashed. Total inebriation is the only way to relieve alienation, it would seem. I deplore that. I deplore the misuse of drugs of all forms. And I'll probably smoke a cigarette as well. So yes, I'm a sinner too. But I'm saying no, because what does it ultimately lead to? It's only being done for the profits of landlords, for the breweries that produce the stuff. And to whose detriment is it? The people who get drunk, and it becomes a public order issue, and that is not something that is good for the residents of St Helier. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Russell?
Mr. Gosling, it is a perfectly reasonable position for you to take that we should sort out the problems with the current opening hours before extending them. It's a perfectly reasonable position for you to take. And you arrived late, but I did actually mention this in my opening remarks. And my feeling was, as part of the things that all St Helier deputies should be working together to put pressure on, to get some purchase, get some leverage on sorting out some of these issues, and the noise is one of them. This is an email I had from one lady. I mean, it's a full page of A4, complaining not only about the noise of revellers, if we call them, that's quite a polite term, from 11 p.m. till 4 a.m. on the weekends. She was also complaining about power tools, building sites, 7 days a week. She was also complaining about the tannoy at Springfield, actually, and the noise that makes. So it's miserable for people to have to live with this, and it's definitely something that's got to be sorted out. It should be top of the agenda for the St Helier deputies, and with the new election, we should make a renewed push to sort this out and put pressure on to sort it out.
Thank you, Russell.
That's actually an excellent question, and I haven't done a lot of research on it. I'll make a point of doing more research on it, but it's my opinion. I don't think there's any need. I think it would just cause more trouble. There'd be drunker people. Like I say, I've had a lot of complaints said to me about the noise around, especially Pier Road area. And but again, I say this: if the drinking does get stopped at 2 o'clock and it's truly, honestly policed, I think that it could be a good idea, as long as they're harsh with it. They don't let anyone buy 5 pints at 10 to 2, and I think as long as it's policed, it could be good, but then you just got to ask, can it be really? So probably I'd say no, I'm not for it.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. And the gentleman just here, in the middle.
My name's Martin Preissig. One question, candidates. If you were re-elected or elected as representative of St Helier number 1, what are your viewpoints on promoting the redevelopment of the brownfield sites that litter our part of St Helier, the Ann Street Brewery site, the Gas Place site, the old Le Mazaret buildings, etc.? And do you also think, what's your opinion on the proposed supermarket development on the old Ann Street Brewery site? Is this a suitable location for a new supermarket?
Sorry,
considering its close proximity to the co-op.
Sorry, can you just repeat the last part of your question?
Talking about redevelopment of the brownfield sites in our area of St Helier, and are they there to promote that redevelopment for the benefit of St Helier residents in that part of St Helier? And also, is the proposed new supermarket on the Ann Street Brewery a suitable place for a brand new supermarket on the island?
Thank you. Okay, Gino.
I haven't actually caught the first part of the question. I've got the supermarket. Shall I
What are your
answer that?
views on development on brownfield sites in your district?
The issues of development is a case-by-case basis, and a question of the environmental impact on people that live in the vicinity. So as long as you get good representation, and I know, Judy, when the flats were going to be developed for a car park, you successfully put that one off in which street?
It was Anne Court.
Anne Court. So it's important to take it on a case-by-case basis. Now, as far as the development at Anne Street, now, correct me if I'm wrong again, but hasn't that development been passed? I think that development has passed the planning stage. It seems to me, without looking at the detail of that planning application, it seems reasonable. It is, of course, another supermarket. Well, it's Tesco opening their second site, and competition in the food distribution is quite important, I think, to Jersey. And there's a measure of housing, I know, being developed. So issues of development is case by case. And if we get good government, if we get good, honest representation, you know, people have the last say. Now, I wish that was absolutely true, but this is what I want to deliver to you. The ability for the government to be bottom up rather than top down. So, you know, I would really, in your heart, feel that what I've said to you earlier this evening is so important, otherwise you're going to lose control completely of this island of yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino. Scott.
Hi Martin, thank you for the question. I agree with Gino that these brown sites are on a case by case, but what I do think doesn't happen enough on deciding what's happening on these brown sites is how much traffic the roads can take, how heavily congested they are, where's the nearest school, is there any places left, what's the parking availability. There just doesn't seem to be enough on, is it going to cause us more trouble? Now, we're looking at Anne Street and the supermarket. It's totally the wrong place. I was down there today. They've got roadworks down near the Odeon, so they're diverting all the traffic from town up Belmont Road. Now, it's already chocker up to that traffic light when you're going on. So no, it's not the right place. It's just going to cause more congestion and more trouble for the residents. I do agree that we need to have cheaper food. I think another supermarket might help with the competition, but no, not the right site at all.
Thank you. What you've highlighted there is the fact that we've got a government that's actually dominated by those who live in the country. That's an historical legacy of the dominance of the old landed property and seigneurs. But in fact, there's new kind of property. It's called bankers who live there. And they've no intention of having any social housing in Trinity or in St Mary's or any kind of development there. And that's the contradiction. We want to build houses for the people, so they say, but they're going to stick everything in St Helier. It's totally contradictory because there is no major plan. They're not thinking outside the box. And I do remember Freddie Cohen when he was in planning minister, and there was a special, it was broadcast on BBC Radio Jersey, and there was a special, architects were invited, developers, and they were all very serious. And then someone asked the question, how many of you actually live within the St Helier ring road, in the St Helier? Answer, none. So they're not going to pay any attention to the real social issues, the real needs for development and housing within this district. You've got a government that's completely out of touch with the ordinary working people of St Helier. They do not care what happens. That's why in Tunnel Street there's going to be a huge skyscraper built. They don't care. The owners of the gas company, the shareholders will take their profits once they've got it passed for as many possible flats as possible. They don't live there. They're not like the residents who have bought their houses along there and are now faced with a permanent shadow. I'm afraid that's why you have to vote for people like me, who understand and have analysed and are giving you a completely different perspective and are going to be the opposition. And it's going to be telling the establishment in the House hard facts, the truths, things that hurt. Because that is the reality of living here. And those are the things that have to be changed in Jersey. And that is the historical role of politicians on the left like myself.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Russell?
Yes, I fully support the development of brownfield sites, and in St Helier we should own that, drive it and push it, as long as it's appropriate. I think the worry is, it's perhaps been touched on, that too many units are crammed onto smaller sites. I worry about high-rise. St Helier is not a high-rise town, and I worry about going up high. I met somebody on Ann Street today looking up at the new development there, and she just looked down, saw me and said, "My God, isn't it high?" Living around high-rise developments can be miserable. So I go back to my point about using La Collette as a resource, because that, used more efficiently, moving the fuel farm, getting houses down there, could help to alleviate that dilemma that St Helier faces about high-rise against urban sprawl. Tesco's, well, be careful what you wish for, it's okay, but I guess it's a push for bringing prices down, and when 45% of the population can't pay their bills, I guess that's why that's there. But really, when they're on price comparisons now, supermarkets, aren't they? So really, I don't know, but next door to the co-op doesn't make much sense to me. Scott is right about the traffic management. I think TTS, look, traffic management is a science. It's really hard to get right. I don't have the confidence that TTS are necessarily the right people to try and manage the traffic around the whole of our town. I'm not sure that it shouldn't be an environment issue, but I don't think the Environment Department should necessarily be with planning, etc. But TTS have got penciled in traffic around town, penciled in for 2018. I think that's ridiculous. We need to move that to 2015 and get it sorted.
Thank you, Russell.
Although two people have brought up, what jumps out of my mind is the traffic that the development would cause. It would be an absolute nightmare, and there are so many residents that live around that area. I just think it would cause more grief than not. Thinking about the brownfield sites, I think we need to be careful sorting out the good development plans, and we need to oppose the bad ones. And I think a good way of doing this is getting people who live around these areas their opinions, instead of just asking, people who want to make a bit of money out of it. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, this is the problem. This part of town is looked in at one site in isolation. The people living around the gasworks site were hoping for something better. But now the people living around there are saying to me and others who are interested, we never thought we'd say we like the gasometer better than the 300 flats planned there, the new supermarket planned on the other corner, Play.com are putting in plans for about another 150 flats, and Court, when built, will be another over 100 flats, some underground parking. The 300 at Gas Place are a third parking, that's all they've been asked. And that went from, I think, 13 to 16 weeks in the planning process. When we objected, we found out the planning department had been working with the developers since 2011, but the residents didn't know. So it's about joined up, and I agree with what everybody says here. Something's got to be better. We already have the new St Saviour's Place flats along St Saviour's Road and the back at Pleasant Street, another 70 flats there, Salisbury Crescent opposite Grand Marché, more and more flats. That area is gridlocked if anything goes wrong. The schools, where are they going to school? Springfield School, anybody in that area cannot get their children who are born not yet on the waiting list to go to Springfield School. Where do they go? It's got to be joined up. It does need a lot more political will to say, yes, they don't mind some development in a lot of these sites, but not over cramming and under parking and hoping that people are not going to use the ring road or not going to come into town. They're all coming up St Saviour's Hill or down Wellington Hill from St Saviour's Road to go to schools, secondary schools. So I think that it's I don't know about the right site for a supermarket. At least it's not going to bring loads of more people, and it does have parking. But it's the area, Belmont Road and Ann Street, tiny little roads. I agree with anything that's been said about TTS. I don't have overconfidence in this, what they've been doing. They don't think it through. You should start with the basics first. Tell us what you need and tell us what you're going to do. Those roads are going to have to be one way, I'm being told. How are you going to get to your homes? A lot of it is just overcrowding because we've made this too many people in the island and not enough homes. Can't put them all in north of town. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Judy. Okay, I think there's a person in the front who wants to ask a question.
The gentleman's last question.
Oh, it's been dealt with, okay. Okay, we'll take another question. Don't be shy. Is there anyone else, is there anyone else, this gentleman here, and then we'll come back to you. No, sorry, gentleman on the side there.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen, evening panel. In the botched referendum last year, you had A, B and C. A was for deputies, B was for constables and deputies. Now, shouldn't C have been deputies and senators? I wonder what the panel think of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is in reference to the referendum. Shouldn't C have been, sorry, can you?
Deputies and senators.
Deputies and senators. Okay, in the way that things, the choices were put forward to the public. Scott.
So what do you think?
I don't overly understand the question. You're saying that it should just be deputies and senators and no constables? Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that entirely, actually. I think that should have been one of the options that we were given. I think that the last referendum didn't ask the right questions. I agree with that. They gave you options and I didn't like any of them, to be honest. But yeah, I think deputies and senators, obviously we've got the referendum for the constables now and you've got your yes-no vote to see if you want them to have an automatic right. I think Sam Mazzick there made a very good point on Monday in the debates that said if you vote no, what will actually happen will mean we'll get to look at what it can look like. If you say yes, we're going to do nothing. So that's where I stand there. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Scott. Nick?
Thank you for that question. I believe in one category of states member, all elected on the same day, in constituencies of equal size. The referendum in 2013 was a gerrymander, of course. It was engineered by a lawyer. So we know what the outcome was. All those little C votes popped into the B bucket, and B sort of won, but it didn't really, did it? Because it was a 26% turnout, lacked legitimacy. On the first count, of course, option B didn't have the majority. Option B, in fact, was the favoured, preferred option of Sir Philip Balash. It was the government's preferred option, and so it remains, because it retains constables who are their voting fodder. They're the ones that ensure that the Council of Ministers' policies always get through, because they always vote the same way, according to whatever the Council of Ministers wish. So the referendum, why is the political class actually going for referendums at all? You know, what it really means is that they haven't got the ability to take decisions. That's what politicians are supposed to give. Leadership. Decisive. Jersey, no, we'll go and have a referendum. What they want to do is actually they're playing games with you. They are trying to get you to vote in a particular way to legitimise a decision which they've already taken. They have no intention of paying any attention whatsoever to you. They do not have any respect for you, only utter contempt. So this current referendum is exactly the same thing. It was supposed to be a PPC put forward one proposition on should we have one category of states member. It was torpedoed by Deputy Green on behalf of the constables, so we now have a referendum on constables. Where does it lead us? Absolutely nowhere, other than it further will legitimise, supposedly, the existence and continuation of the constables. What's that all about? Power. It keeps power in the hands of the wealthy, of the rich, in the northern parishes. That's what it's all about. And it means excluding working people who live primarily in the urban areas, who are underrepresented. St Helier should have 17 representatives by population. It has 11. Now, that has been an ongoing historical problem. I'm not going to give you the history lesson, because I know Sam, when he says, I address anything, you always get the history lesson. But there is a history lesson behind it, but it remains the same. Be very wary of this referendum. I shall be voting no, because I think it's very important that those who do vote should send a message back to our rulers. No, I'm afraid actually what we want is an honest, fair electoral system. Stop the gerrymandering.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with a lot. I agree with a lot of what Nick has just said. I was accidentally a spokesman for the C campaign at the referendum because I wanted to save the senators. I was passionate about keeping the senators. I think it's the fairest election, and that was the only one where you could keep the senators, which is why I was on that campaign. I was ambivalent about the constables because I assumed they were on the hit list anyway, and on death row, as it were. But we've lost 4 senators to gain this so-called general election. General elections are about, changing governments or supporting them. We're going to get very little change, I fear. I really do. I think we're building up to a huge disappointment for people. Yeah. I don't think that the referendum has been given enough airspace because it's in the middle of both deputies and senatorial and one constable's election. So there's virtually, bless them, the people who are campaigning for no to the constables are doing their best, but, everyone's busy on their own election campaign. All the politicians are, aren't they? Most of them. Of course, the constables aren't, at least not 11 of them. So I'm regularly finding on the doorstep, like a woman yesterday said, I'd love to vote for you, but I'm voting for Dr. Zoe Cameron. So, well, you can vote for both because we're in a different election. I'm finding we're having to explain the whole thing time and time again. So I am not sure that this general election, I don't know whether it was Constable Galachon's idea, but I think we've gone wrong, big time, and I think the last referendum was a massive disaster and debacle.
Okay, thank you, Russell.
I haven't done a lot of research on the last year's referendum, but it's my opinion that it was just overcomplicated. A lot of people didn't understand the ABC thing, and yeah, I just think that's all I have to say, really. It was just really overcomplicated. It should have been simplified more, and it should have been explained better.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Judy.
Yes, thank you, Malcolm. The C was what it was. It wasn't never going to be in there, but we got another question put to the States. Again, I've been on PPC. We got ambushed. We couldn't put what we had worked on for months. The clothier. It was what clothier said, and it explained everything. Like everyone's saying now, if the 12 constables go, will you have 12 less members, or will they be replaced by senators? Nobody knows because it's a total random question. Option A was 6 super constituencies with no constables. Option B was 6 super constituencies, but keep the constables. The constables didn't mind that they were having 3 or 4 of their deputies and whoever represented them put together, as long as they were still there. And option B and option C, you had nowhere to go. Option A, on the very first time they ever done a single transferable vote, So the people who voted had a second chance, had a second count. And even I said around the PPC table, this sounds a bit fiddly to me. You can't win if you're going to have that extra vote, because I've got nowhere to go if I'm going to vote for A. I can't vote again. The option B people did. So you have got a small option to vote yes or no. Unfortunately, as it's been said, not a lot of people have got the time to go around and explain it. There are 11 constables who are not fighting the election. They're all in the yes campaign, and it's somebody asked on the radio the other day, what's the budget for the yes campaign? Now they're running it from the parish halls that they're actually having the election in. Definitely fair, don't you think? No. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino.
Yeah, the issue about the constables was dealt with by Clothier, but like I said, the government is hierarchical in nature, so there's absolutely no way that the senior politicians and civil servants want to lose the constable in the States. It's a power block. So even in this referendum, if you said no, you still wouldn't get your way. I'm sorry, you wouldn't. They find a way of going round the, rephrasing it, or that the constables are there to stay. Until you say no, your government, you are your government. You must, we need to rein this power back to ourselves. Now, I've got a bit to say about senators, and of course what they did by keeping the constables in, not listening to Clothier, is they fry anyone other than losing the constables. So we started to get rid of the senators, which was a terrible shame, because I thought senators and deputies worked quite well. Now, I tell you why I want to retain senators, and I'd like to go back to possibly 12. Now, I believe that every ministerial position ought to be voted in by the public. Because at the moment, I mean, I'm not really sure whether you get this, but senior members of this government believe it's okay, and with no disrespect at all, this is an observation, think it's all right that the car salesperson can head up education. Or a nurse can head up health. Or someone who hasn't even got a degree, I don't think, can head up the Treasury. How can we think those positions that need huge amount of experience, that you can give it to lay people? If you voted in each minister with an island-wide vote, only the highest calibre will step forward. They'll have different leanings, and that's for you to choose, but at least you've got people in positions that are important who understand what confronts them. But no, they would even want to fry that so long as they keep control, because what they require on the front are nodding donkeys to say yes to the senior politicians. So even that is, well, it's a deplorable situation.
Okay,
anyway, thank you.
Okay, unless there's somebody else who hasn't yet asked a question. Sorry, you're being displaced for a moment.
Hi, Sam Mezek. I've got a day job next door. Very, very simple question, can be done yes or no. Will you promise to oppose any rise in GST, yes or no?
Okay, we'll start with Nick again, I think.
It's not possible for a politician to answer yes or no. Of course I will oppose it, absolutely, because it hits working people. What we need is progressive taxation that fairly raises wealth, taxes wealth from those who are most able to pay.
Russell?
Yes.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Julie?
Yes, it's already on my manifesto.
Gino?
Now, I want to make this a little bit clear because I know a lot of people are not aware. Now, listen very carefully. Of course, I would say no to more GST, but I want to make you aware that there are companies called ISE companies, that they're exempt companies, trust companies, certain accountants, property developers. Now, any jurisdiction in Europe, people like banks and trust companies may not pay GST on their turnover. No, on their turnover. So we've allowed that in Jersey. We've given them the fact that they don't pay it on their turnover, but they certainly pay it on their costs when they have an electrician in or plumber or buy stationery. But there's hundreds of ISE companies on this island, and most people not aware, not paying their way, and you have to pick up the tab by doubling GST soon. Yes,
Okay.
of course I will stop that, or try and stop that.
Scott?
Thank you, Sam, for a simple yes-no question. Yes.
Okay. We'll come back to this gentleman. We can bring the mic to this gentleman. Yeah.
Sorry, I want to ask a second question, but it's about the hospital. Can the candidates say whether they're for the redevelopment of the hospital site in its current position, or are they for a two-site development in the future?
Okay, thank you. Redevelopment of the hospital in its current position or two-site hospital. Russell?
I am very sceptical about redeveloping the hospital on two sites. I'm sceptical about redeveloping a hospital whilst it's still operating as a hospital. Apparently, we couldn't rebuild the police station where it was, which I think would have been the best option, because apparently you can't rebuild a police HQ with whilst they're still operating in it, but you can with a hospital? I don't get it. I am of the opinion, I think that we should have a one-stop hospital on one site, newly built. It doesn't have to look horrid. It could be a fantastic, iconic building designed by a decent architect, something that we can all get. If we're going to spend all this money on a new hospital, let's make it a hospital we can all get behind, maybe even be proud of. That's what I think.
Thank you, Russell. Shannon?
I think that building a hospital on two separate sites, it overcomplicates things and also it's quite expensive. There are a lot of details that you would need to sort out before building on two different sites. And I think that it would just be better, cheaper and easier if we just kept it one place.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Having been on health and seeing how long it's taken to redevelop different departments in the building because of the constraints, and of course the people, the first thought all the time is the patient. I wouldn't want to develop on that site. They are listening at the top for once, because the two-site option may be cheaper and quicker because it is the Overdale Hospital and it's a general, but in revenue costs and inconvenience, will it work in the long term? So I think the drawing board's still out. They're looking again at a few of the sites that didn't make it in the top sort of 10, and hopefully it's not like the police station. The police station could have been built, but we can't hang about waiting for the hospital to get started. It will run out of space, and it's really some of the parts of everyone's been there. We are still doing little bits. We are redeveloping Robin Ward. We're bringing that forward, but that is only for a short cycle. But we can't leave it as it is. It's for children, and we need to do a bit for teenagers as well, because they don't want to be in with older people. So. Basically, no, the jury's still out, and I think we will get one new hospital on one site, but it won't be the general and it won't be the two sites. Thank you.
I was in construction for many years. Certainly what we need is a greenfield site so that We can have proper parking for the staff, proper parking for visitors. Yes, a clean site, greenfield site, it's the cheapest way to construct it, and you'll get the best result. And then you've got some land in the town that are possibly really good sites to sell on or turn into housing. So, greenfield site, one place, put everything there, and so it works properly.
Thank you, Julian. Scott?
Obviously, putting my service delivery manager head on, duplication of effort is ridiculous. You don't put things on two sites, you don't duplicate effort, it just causes expense and inefficiencies. So it has to be on one site. I don't know whether redeveloping the current site is the right one or not, but it certainly shouldn't be on two. It brings me onto another level. I'm just going to have to say this because I've been told that our crematorium up at Overdale is the only one in Europe that doesn't have a mercury filter. So we're actually just sending mercury out into the air, which is dangerous to everyone. Why would we have a hospital next to that? And why have we got a care home next to that? Apparently Anne Pryke has had this on her desk for 3 years and done nothing about it. And I think it's despicable and it needs to be looked into. So, thank you.
We should, of course, have a hospital that is on one site because we need a hospital that meets the needs of islanders. But that is not the major concern of the Treasury Minister. He is concerned about and is aware that Jersey is going bankrupt. We've got a £95 million structural deficit, and it's going to get worse. And you know what the establishment's going to do. They're going to start cutting public services. They're going to start cutting back, and that's precisely why they've gone for the two sites, because it's cheaper, because they haven't got the money, because they won't tax those who are most able to pay. And we're going to have to think of the unthinkable about how we tax companies and how we tax the wealthy, because Middle Jersey is fed up of paying the tax. The employees of the finance industry are paying the tax. The working class is paying the tax through GST, and they are angry. The pensioners know the price of a loaf of bread is £1.80, but they don't eat £1.80 loaves. They eat bread that costs £1, which isn't bread. That is the reality of contemporary Jersey in a society that is increasingly polarising between the rich and the poor, between the haves and the have-nots, and you've got a government of the wealthy that runs this island. You need an opposition. I will be part of it.
We'll take one more last question, the gentleman at the back.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Jason Crone. I've got a question. At the moment, there's about 50 to 60...
hold it up?
Hello. Yeah, sorry. My name is Jason Crone. I've got a question to do with the co-op warehouse at Belazan, the ambient food store. I'd like to ask the candidates here what their feelings on the co-op's announcement of making up to 50 to 60 workers there redundant. They may be able to replace them somewhere else, but what are the actual thoughts and feelings on losing the ambient food store in Jersey, the only one we have? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Hi, Jason. As you know, I think it's outrageous that there's going to be 50 to 60 people possibly losing their jobs. And as I said to you, I would sign any petition you bring forward, and whatever else I can do to prevent this, I will. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I was very surprised to hear that they're losing their warehouse food store, because when we had, only a few months back, we had the terrible trouble with the ferries. Everyone comes saying you'll get the staple stuff from the co-op because of this food store. And then suddenly it's closing down. I'm told they've got now some sort of deal with, it might be EasyJet, it could be one of the others, that if that happened again, they would fly food in. But this, you know, there's a lot of flying food in for the amount of people here. And again, as you say, the people are losing their jobs. I know the co-op didn't want to do it, he did it with a heavy heart, but he obviously is, there's someone telling him what to do. And hopefully, you know, I think the jury's still out, that it might be able to be saved, but a lot of work needs to be done. Thank you.
Well, you may be disappointed, of course, to lose 50 jobs, and who wouldn't be disappointed? But, of course, it's a commercial decision, which, if they want to follow through, they have a right to, because it is a commercial operation. There's obviously a reason. But never forget, where one door closes, another door opens. So just focus on the next best thing that could go on there. Thank you.
Scott, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was quite shocked when I heard the news as well. Obviously, as Gina said, it is a commercial decision, but I don't think it's a smart commercial decision. I'm glad that they said that they're going to try and help all the people to find other jobs within the organisation, and I hope they do. This flying in food, well, when we've had heavy fog at the airport, how many times have we been stuck for days with heavy fog and no planes are coming in? So how are they going to deal with that? It doesn't sound like there's a disaster recovery action that's anything sensible at all. So it's a commercial decision, it's a bad one.
Thank you, Scott.
We can't afford to lose these local jobs. There's several thousand people unemployed. Where are they going to be employed? Those workers are going to have to fight. As I've been going around knocking doors, speaking to people, I've been accumulating a list of action points for after the election, of people who I've got to help with employment issues, about a woman who works for a care home, but they don't pay her or the other 42 staff for bank holidays. I'm going to sort that out. How? We can organise a strike, perhaps. We can unionise them. What should the workers be doing here? They should also be thinking about a strike across the entire co-op. But they're frightened. They're frightened of management. I know that. Come the 16th, I will be engaged in their struggle. I will be saying to them, join a union that fights, that has a strong leadership, and if it hasn't got a strong leadership, you throw it out and you organise yourselves independently and you take on the management, because that is the new era we're going into, a one of class conflict, where there will be struggle, well, there will be more of these unemployed and there will be more redundancies. We have to stop it here. They will not pass. Let's make this an important victory for working people in Jersey. Let's fight and let's keep those jobs. Thank you.
Jason, thank you for raising that issue. We hear you loud and clear. And as has been said, we should do all we can to help and sort the situation out and maybe stop it if possible. Solidarity.
No, Jason, I think we've got to carry on. Sorry about that.
And that makes it different than any commercial enterprise. It means that its members are its shareholders. It doesn't have external shareholders. So the membership, which is most of us in this room, can call a special meeting and ask the directors to be accountable. That is what I wanted to hear.
Okay, thanks.
Well, then you know that. It is a mutual society and doesn't need to make greater profits or capital gains. We're putting people out of work for more profit for executive bonuses.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we've reached the end of the questions, and what I intend to do now is ask from this side, so if Scott wishes to get himself psyched up, so to speak. I'll ask each candidate if in a minute, which I know is a difficult task, in a minute could they just sum up what they're about and why they feel they deserve your vote. Scott.
Yeah, hopefully you've seen my leaflet. Some of my primary areas that I really want to look at is building diversity in the economy so we're safe from any collapse in the finance industry. I want to help young people get into starting new businesses. I want to help Digital Jersey, the Innovation Fund, actually open up the funding so people can actually get these businesses started and get the support they needed to get that help. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Gino?
My reason to stand and to get into government is because I want to stop opinion-driving policy. I want facts and evidence to drive policy, and that is a clear job that needs to be done if we don't want to get into enormous deficits. Now, I do not like left-wing politics because it is far too confrontational. It wants to fight. The right has the power. You have to find the compass in every person. We're all the same underneath, but people just don't realise it because they've got belief systems that separate each other. But I know how people tick, I understand, and I can bring this government together, and I can dramatically change the way we do business in government. So I really would like your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Gino.
Yes, thank you, and I'd like to thank everyone who's asked some really good questions tonight, all to do with the district. Really, all I can say is I'd like to finish as I started this evening. I've been there for 14 years. I've been working for the district and helping people for at least nearly 20 years. And all I can say is if you want me to continue working with you on different issues, be it overcrowding, not enough parking, schools, housing that's falling down, I'm still got the passion for it, but it's totally up to you next Wednesday whether you want to give me your vote. But I will promise you I've never changed in 14 years. I'm still the same person I was then, and I will carry on, and that's all I can promise you is I will carry on being that same person. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Shannon?
I think that you should vote for me because I think it's somewhere along the lines, people working in politics forgot that they were working for the people and not the other way around. And I want to change it back to that. I want to work for the people and help the people. I might be young, but I see through the eyes of the young of Jersey, the future. And yeah, that's all I really want. I'm not a good public speaker, but I'm good at most things, other things. Okay.
Russell?
Well, we have a saying in the theatre that the best actors are those that never stop learning. I don't have all the answers, but I'm prepared to learn, and I'm prepared to ask, I hope, the right questions. I've made a career out of that. Mr. Eaves, Mr. Gosselin, I respect your positions. My candidacy is sincere. If elected, I can't wait to get stuck in to help St Helier, a town I love. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Nick?
I'm a lawyer by profession, as you know, so I put those skills and training at your disposal. We're going to face major austerity from the government in the coming months and years. They're going to be cutting public services. We need to fight it. It'll be a rearguard action. You need capable, strong, articulate people like myself who are not afraid to challenge power, who are prepared to ask the difficult questions. I want to represent the social and economic interests of working people in the States because those interests are forgotten. I am prepared to put myself at your disposal to fight for your interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of yourselves, I'd like to thank the candidates for their very interesting answers. I hope it's been of use to you as you make strides, or some of you, hopefully all of you, make strides towards the voting booths. And that's the last message I can give, I suppose, is that you do vote. We know there's a lot of feeling out there for one reason or another, but I hope you do vote. And again, I thank the candidates for playing such a splendid role tonight. Thank you.